Welcome to another Rust and WebAssembly working group meeting. Thanks for coming, everyone. So we're going to skip our usual RFC triage and status updates today because, like we talked about last time, we wanted to plan, or we wanted to resume 6-week sprints and wanted to plan out this sprint, I guess, what our goals are going to be. But before we get to that, just like real quick, just checking things off. In case you didn't see it, there was the announcement for Glue, the modular toolkit that we planned in our roadmap for 2019. And so it doesn't actually really have anything yet, but this is kind of a call for participation. So if you want to get more involved, that's a great place to do it. Another thing is that someone somewhere made a list of NPM packages that they thought maybe there could possibly be a Rust WASM version. And so if you are interested in doing a Rust WASM version of an NPM package, this list looks like a good place to start. So 6-week sprint planning. So 6 weeks from now is April 25th, just so we have an idea of the time frame. I think we should add a sprint label to all of the issues, and then that makes it really easy to view all of the things in the sprint across the whole organization, which I found very useful last time we did these things. And yeah, so our kind of top level goals called out in our roadmap are the Glue toolkit, multi-threading, toolchain, and monitoring stuff. Is that everything? Oh, debugging. So I guess we could start with the Glue toolkit. In 6 weeks, what do we have? So we're still very much in kind of the design and planning and figuring out what the heck we're doing with Glue for 6 weeks. So I think it makes sense to say we should have a clear picture of what we're doing and like be in the middle of implementing, I guess, or like getting implementation off the ground. Do you have any thoughts about that, Pawan? Maybe in chat.
Says none, not particularly.
Okay. So I guess what can happen is I can tag more of these things as sprint issues as we figure out what we're doing. Cool. Okay. Multi-threading stuff.
I don't think if there's a whole lot. I think maybe the goal could be we should get the Rayon demo landed. So something using the experimental branch of Rayon that Josh has, or that has been prepared for us.
Cool.
And so yeah, that's probably the best extent by which we can go here.
Sweet. Okay, tool chains. This is WASM pack, WASM bindgen, etc.
So I read the agenda and saw the plan about the issues stuff. So O.8.0, which is the release that will come after tomorrow's release, is the same as Sprint. And so I just went through and all of the issues that were already marked there as O.8.0, I marked as Sprint as well, unless I already had a PR attached, which we have a couple. And so in general, I did this based on kind of like where we are in the process, but like this doesn't mean that we can't change what I've put here. I just thought having a straw man would be good. And so for features, I felt like getting WASM-Pack generate, and then WASM op support, and then target for producing isomorphic apps. Those are three relatively big desirable features that I think we should be able to accomplish in 6 weeks. And then from there, regarding support, this was largely because of PRs we kind of already had open that some people have made kind of vague progress on, which is support for non-rust up setups and npm installer. I don't know if there's other support we wanted, but those were kind of just already in flight. And then for maintenance, I think the real big one here is the improvements to the CLI output strategy. And then also there's kind of an ask to do improved panics, and then also move binary install into its own crate. And then finally for docs, mostly contributor facing, the release checklist, and then improved contributing guidelines. That's kind of what I was thinking. But very open to feedback.
That sounds like a good collection of things. Yeah. So the long line stuff, is that fixed by your PR, Alex?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I haven't tested to see if it is, but my assumption was that it was.
Yeah, that's kind of my assumption as well. All right. Do we think we can get the local, or not the local snippets, the external crate depending on npm packages stuff in this 6 weeks as well?
I have not looked exactly or like thought exactly about how we can implement that, but I think we should be able to. I should file an issue to make sure that we're tracking that. I think that's why that missed my, but if that support is going to land in WASM Bindgen, I want to support it in WASM-Pack ASAP. So I would like prioritize that over maybe like a cargo generate, just because it seems more important to me. I don't know what you think about that, but I think we should probably be able to do both, but I want to be, especially for like the first sprint in this set of sprints, it'd be nice to be conservative and successful.
Right. Yeah, and so the other thing to note about the sprint label was like I intentionally didn't do like sprint 0 or sprint 1 because the idea is there's no hard deadline really. It's just like goals for ourselves so they can just automatically roll over.
Cool, yeah. I'll create a tracking issue for doing that, and I'll definitely label it sprint. And I'll put it in O.8, but we'll see. Maybe something will slip if we end up doing it. But it seems like a thing that we should get in quickly.
All right. Our performance/code size monitoring stuff. I found that the Chrome Puppeteer stuff has some interesting time to interaction measurements, which if there's a cross-browser solution based on WebDriver, I would prefer using that. But if not, I'm okay with using the one thing that we do have available. Anyway, so I was thinking that it would be nice to maybe stand up some like time to interaction measurements next to the code size stuff, because I mean, this is kind of the thing, the asterisks that we always have to add whenever we talk about code size, is that like, this is the best proxy we currently have for measuring the actual thing. And the actual thing is more like time to interactive. Does that sound like a good goal for the 6-week sprint?
I think so, and I'm a big fan of the Puppeteer project, so I think leveraging that would be good. And if we want any help, a former colleague of mine at NPM does a lot of work on that.
Cool.
I think it'd be worthwhile to get a proof of concept. I'm a little wary in terms of performance monitoring is really, really difficult to do on CI without dedicated hardware. So that it might mean that it'll be really difficult to get useful information out of it, like in terms of like overtime measurement. But having something that you can run locally and we could verify at least ourselves would be a lot better than nothing that we have right now.
Yeah. Or like maybe it's just making a little wrapper that makes it easy to run this on Rust WASM projects, and then we can just have it kind of separate from the weight tracker, just as a tool that we can point people to when they start asking about code size.
That's a good point, yeah.
All right, and debugging stuff. I'd like to have Walrus tracking the origin of all of the new instructions and transformations, and I guess existing instructions, and not necessarily doing anything with it yet, but I think we should have that tracking there.
Sven asks in chat, what's the status of source maps or dwarf in WASM?
There's been little movement in the browser world. I think for many months. In kind of the crane lift world, there's a proof of concept of transforming dwarf that was emitted for the WASM into dwarf that's for the native code that that crane lift is emitting. And so you can debug that stuff with LLDB, which is pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Any other things that we would like to call out for the sprint? Anyone's pet issue?
This is not necessarily a pet issue. This is just sprint in any category, I guess. So tomorrow I'm going to land what is not a perfect, but just needs to land version of this like marketing page for WASM Pack with like kind of the funnels based on target that helps like align like what you're targeting and like what template you should use, what workflow, etc. It would be great if we could try to push the like unification of like the landing page. Because like this is just going to be on like the home page of WASM Pack right now, but this is supposed to be like a unified toolchain, so just having it be a page for WASM Pack seems like a little silly. I don't know if there's anybody interested in that, but once that lands tomorrow, I think it would be nice to try and get it all in the same place and feel like more of a like funnel for the whole project.
I don't know if you saw, but Jay finished Alex's docs bookshelf PR thing, which is kind of the same thing, but on the docs side rather than the landing page side. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, it's super awesome. And I think that's why like having like the docs and having those funnels and then kind of like the marketing, like get started funnels all in the same place would be like super great.
Yeah, so the only other thing that I'd like to aim for is like it seems we have a lot of RFCs that are very near to completion, and if there's not like concerns and non-consensus, it would be pretty sweet to get those merged. And then maybe in the next sprint, we could make those RFCs things goals.
So I checked my box on the npm deps dependency, and I can check my box on, where the heck is it? On the roadmap one. The other one that's open is the RFC for like my duplicate npm one that Alex scooped up and like rewrote. The only hesitation I have about the RFC for watch and serve on Wesmpack, I think we should definitely do it. I would like to approve and merge an RFC close to when it will be implemented though. And I'm worried that it might be like a little while until we get to that, since we do have a bit of a backlog that I think we want to prioritize over those things. So like, is there a way we can say like put on hold till like we think we're ready to do some implementation? Because, you know, the interface of Wesmpack, we're adding a bunch of commands, it might change. And so like, I don't want to approve now and then have to like edit it a ton later.
I guess I was more optimistic about our ability to implement it quickly.
Yeah, I guess I'd want to be conservative. Like maybe we get towards the end of, like we certainly are not going to implement it in the next sprint. So I think as we approach the end of the next sprint, we can like evaluate whether or not we think it's something that we can land, and then like approve it closer to like that sprint so that we can then do that, if that makes any sense.
Why are we certainly not going to implement it in the next sprint?
Well, as an RFC, its design hasn't yet landed and the next sprint starts today. And we have a pretty cool set of things that we want. Yeah, I'm not like, I totally think it's possible, but just like, I don't know, it seems like we just did the planning and it didn't come up, so.
Right. This was I was thinking this sprint and next sprint. And so it's
sorry, yeah, those words are very vague. I apologize.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would be happy with saying we should. I would like to target implementing those things, not this sprint, next sprint, because
for O.9
we want to have the no npm stuff in the tutorial, and I think we need to have this in order to do that. And so I think it makes sense to aim for having the RFC merged at the end of this coming sprint so that we can start on it for the next sprint.
Okay, awesome. I'm extremely down with that. I think that works with the timeline I'd expect.
Right. This is, of course, assuming fundamental concerns and lack of consensus.
Yeah. So far, it's been very positive. So I think most people want it. For me, it was really just a big question of when.
All right. So yeah, after the meeting, I'll go through all this stuff, and anything that's not already tagged sprint or doesn't already have an issue, I'll file an issue. And then, of course, we can adjust as the week goes on. Yeah. Okay. Alex, you added an agenda item about handling unpaired surrogates in JavaScript strings.
Well, this is actually something brought up by Powen this morning, so I'll let them take it away. I just added a fancy heading, so it's just an issue link.
All right.
So I think the general idea is that there was a issue on Powen's Dominator library showing that JS strings can actually have unpaired UTF-16 surrogates, and so you can't actually losslessly receive a string in Rust right now because we always do run it through UTF-8 encoding, and that'll actually replace these surrogates with replacement characters, I believe. And so the issue is describing, well, this is probably a bug and probably something we want to fix in WebAssembly, where if you, like, it kind of makes sense that right now if you have ampersand stir, well, we have to UTF-8 encode it, but if we might want to have the option of like an OS stir-like thing, where it's a lossless representation of what's in JS, and it says a fallible to UTF-8 kind of thing or stuff, something like that.
Isn't this the same as WTF16?
I'm actually not 100% certain. I don't know about JS strings. I know for Windows, those are just arbitrary U16 sequences, since that's what UTF-8 is. But I get the impression that JS strings are not arbitrary U16 sequences, but rather arbitrary sequences of Unicode somethings. Something about unpaired. I don't actually know.
I think Simone has a crate for dealing with these things, or like I think he's also the standards person for WTF8, and I think there's a 16 variant. And I think that's what in JavaScript use. But like, yeah, it certainly seems like we don't have any fundamental unsafety now because we always encode, right? But there is an expressibility problem in that we can't express things that JavaScript can, and in reflection probably shouldn't. But yeah, so we should have support for these sorts of strings that exactly match the semantics that JavaScript has. And seems fairly uncontroversial to me.
I think there's also a question of how we want to handle this with WebADL bindings. So do we want to take every string type and explode it to either a stir or the OS stir-like thing? But I think we can probably handle that as a follow-up step as opposed to handling it right now.
Yeah, I think we can take this discussion to the issue.
Sven has some good links to some WebAssembly stuff, or yeah, to some other related issues.
Nice. All right. So what is this breakage caused by JS snippets?
So this is one that I wanted to bring up. So yesterday we published a version with of WebAssembly with a JS snippets feature added to it. And so there've been a couple of user reports this morning of some breakage that it's been causing. And so we knew that we were reinterpreting some of the strings being passed to module. And so breakage is possible, and it turns out people are actually using it. And so there's a couple of, I mostly wanted to bring this up where there's some example use cases in this thread. And there's a proposal, I think, which makes the most sense of basically adding, right now we have module equals string, and adding raw underscore module equals string, where if you specify module, we attempt to interpret it as JS snippet or npm or whatever, but raw module just says whatever, just throw it all the way through to the WASM file and don't even worry about it, so don't interpret it whatsoever. And so these existing use cases could switch back to using that, and then otherwise pick up the JS snippets when they're able to. And so if anyone has any thoughts on that, I can just bring that up here, but otherwise we can, if there are strong thoughts, we could chat about it here.
Sounds good to me. All right. I think that's a meeting unless anyone has anything they'd like to bring up.
We do have one item in office hours.
I had an office hours question.
Oh, I missed that one. Nice. Awesome. Okay, well, let's do office hours.
The question I had is, I'm using a crate that's using libc as part of it, and I'm trying to obviously compile to WASM. How do you usually go about that? How do people usually handle that kind of situation? It's my question. Should I go into more detail? I'm not sure if that's detailed enough.
My question in response is which parts or which APIs of libc is it using? Because some are not a problem, others,
So it's a decimal crate, so it's using C#, int32t, uint8t, and uint32t. It's using all the number stuff. Sorry?
Those types should work in WASM because they'll end up as some, raw Rust type. Are you getting compilation issues?
Yes. So if I do WASM cargo check with a target WASM, it fails on that, specifying those particular parts of libc.
Right, so what's happening here is that for the WASM32 unknown target, the libc crate is blank. It has 0 contents entirely, so no types, no APIs, no nothing. In general, libc is saying whatever C library is matched up to this platform, I'm going to just bind that, so it'll give you all the functions, all the types, and all that. And so historically, libc hasn't had an equivalent in the WASM32 unknown target because there wasn't much of a C compiler that targeted it. This is a very interesting crate where most of the time when you have these dependencies, it's relying on like some random C function like select or poll or fcontrol or ioctl. And so that obviously will never work on WASM because those don't flat out don't exist on the web. But this is just types, but I'm not actually sure. I'm looking at the crate right now. I'm not entirely certain why it's using libc types inside of the crate as opposed to just like I8 and I32 and U32. But so this is not a actual dependence on like functionality of libc, but just some types coming out of that. And so at least historically, the solution for this is don't depend on libc. So for example,
Right.
the gzip, or like the deflate and zlib style crate just has a backend, it's just all Rust stuff, and it has like a shim saying we're going to have all the Rust types here, and it uses all that instead, so it doesn't use libc at all. But longer term, we want to fill out libc. We were just kind of waiting on a C compiler to define what some of these types are. Like car, for example, can sometimes be signed or unsigned depending on the platform, and so we just kind of needed an agreement with C compilers about which is which. And we've been waiting on that, but now that Clang 8 is being released, which actually has support for the WASM32 unknown target natively, we can probably start matching that in terms of types and publish that. And so this crate, the decimal crate, looks like it would just work if we publish a libc with those types, and we can probably just do that very soon once Clang 8 is formally published and everything.
Okay. But ideally, like if I just, because right now I'm just checking, because it's a dependency of a dependency, even before I get it into my package, some stuff needs to get done. Ideally, if I just WASM pack that afterwards, I should be able to compile, even though the target does not match up with WASM32 unknown.
I don't think I quite understood. So you say that again.
Would I still be able to bundle it with WASM pack and WASM bingen?
Oh yeah, once we get there's other, I mean the two fixes here are either send a PR to the decimal crate and stop using libc at all, which case it'll totally work, or wait for a release of libc where it does have all the types, and then it'll also totally work with WASM bingen or WASM pack and WASM bingen. You can just, it won't have any external dependencies or anything like that.
Okay, and for that we're waiting on Clan 8. You said Clan 8.
Yeah, there hasn't really been a sort of official, we're waiting on this, or official, this is what we're going to do, but I don't think, or I think that once we actually have a fully released C compiler which targets WASM and has a reference that we can code against, we can just copy that, and then we can actually add all the types. So Clang 8 should be released in theory any day now. I was told 2 weeks ago, but we'll see how that goes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and you could also temporarily fork the dependency to replace the types if you just needed to, work around it real quick.
Yeah, fair, probably. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else have anything they'd like to talk about? All right, well, have a great week and see you next time.